to order. Citizens may comment on items appearing on the agenda when invited to participate during that agenda item by the board chair. Citizens may comment on items related to school district business not appearing on this agenda during the public comment portion of the meeting. Citizens, after identifying themselves, will proceed to make comments as briefly as the subject permits. Basic rules of decorum are in effect at all times. The chairperson may interrupt or terminate an individual's statement when appropriate, including when statements are out of order, too lengthy, breach personal privacy rights, abusive, obscene, irrelevant, or otherwise improper. The public should realize that this is a trustee business meeting conducted in a public forum, and we'll stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the consent agenda. We have a motion in 2 seconds. All right, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Approval of bills. This is vocabulary site license about the whole school. Vocabulary. Vocabulary.
Yes.
We all
It is
use
spelling
it.
like- yeah. Okay, that TCI here, field curriculum, what is that? Well,
That's the social studies curriculum that we purchased, I think, that you're talking about there. Yeah. So we bought classroom sets of books for them, but it's mostly on that. So you can do it all through your computer, but we have a classroom set of books that we need.
Okay, that,
And that will have a yearly fee to it, too. It won't be 7,000.
because it will be
It's multi-buy books, yeah.
just that computer.
Motion to approve those.
Yes. Bad habit is a good habit.
Byfield scholarship, is that a special fund that they fund?
That's the one that,
It just comes out.
yeah.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Just a quick, the ELC grant. How much of that grant was housed, because it was a combined grant with other schools as well, right? The
Which one was that?
The ELC grant, test site stuff.
Oh, yeah, we combined that with Kalispell and several other small school districts around the area.
Yeah, and we're just keeping track of this on our budget for what we're spending on. that grant.
Exactly.
Okay,
So that, yeah.
thanks.
Any more discussion? All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, correspondence, guest, public participation. Okay. West Valley PTO.
I don't know if there's anybody here. I have talked to Shannon King, who's been going to the meetings. She's one of our paras, and they are, I think their next meeting's on the 8th, maybe. I'm gonna attend that one, so we can kind of go over some things as well. But they've got some things in the work, I think.
Yeah, I've been going
You want
to.
to talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I've been going to it. They're just, it's a new group of people. They're trying to get it back up and going again, it seems like, so more involved. So I know I was working on setting up the actual 501c3 because it's not set up that way currently. So it's in the works. It'll get better.
Thank you. All right, West Valley Teachers Organization.
Well, fourth grade has signed up to tell you what we're doing. I'm Bryn Remignola, fourth grade teacher, and we're really excited to have field trips back this year. So we've already had a few, and our one of our more recent ones, we went skiing in December up at Blacktail, and that was the fourth graders' first time skiing up there. So that was a lot of fun. It really was very smooth, no problems. We have lots of pictures to show you everything, so we'll just pass those around in a minute. But they did a great job. A lot of them had never been skiing or snowboarding before, and it's just a great opportunity for some of these kids to learn something that they may never have experienced. So it was a great success and we had a good time.
I'm Molly Rowe, I'm a fourth grade teacher. We also went ice skating in Whitefish. And that was super fun. Again, lots of kids that have never been ice skating before. Sorry. So yeah, it was great.
And I'm Kristen Funderburg. And then also part of our field trips, but also part of our yearly long activities is the Hooked on Fishing program, which we've been able to pick up again, which is really exciting. We have Clay that comes in pretty much once a month and teaches a lesson, which is applicable to our science as well, talking about fish identification, knot tying, all related to fishing as well. And then
Regulations.
fishing regulations, yep. And then we went ice fishing just last week. And so it just gets kids active and involved in that aspect as well. So it's really exciting.
And a great lesson in patience.
And then one of the nice things that has happened recently this past year was that we went from having access to Chromebooks like twice a week to having our own carts, which is wonderful. I actually went around and said thank you to everyone who was involved in that because not being so computer techy and savvy, I actually enjoy having the access to them. So I've been able to actually have more projects on the computer, getting my kids on there more and allowing them to experience different types of projects and research things and actually type their papers. And so I have an example of one of our most recent slideshows that they put together. They got to pick, I gave them some research on Abraham Lincoln or George Washington, rest is President's Day this year, and they got to pick which one they wanted to do. So I printed out 3 of the students who completed their projects.
We'll just pass these around. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, principals report.
Tina, want to go first?
Do you want to go first, Richard? Because I don't know how long I'll talk for.
Sure. I'll keep mine brief. So right now we're looking at master scheduling for next year, which is proving a little bit more difficult than we anticipated. One reason is because of our projection to needing 6 second grades next year. We're trying to figure out how to give common prep to that grade level. Kind of looking at maybe doing a split with like half going to lunch and half going to specials at the same time. So we're getting creative with that, but the master schedule is going to be kind of tricky. Looking at staffing for next year, we've got a couple moves grade level wise. So we're excited for those people to take on some new roles and new challenges and join some teams. Not a ton of movement, but enough. And we might continue to have more, but as of now, things are kind of coming together. I know a lot of people think that January, February is a little early to start talking about next year. It's actually kind of late. So we're hoping to get jobs posted soon if we need to do that. I know we have several retirements coming up, so we're just being purposeful and mindful about that and how to best staff those positions to open up the doors next year and have all these kids come in. So yeah, the February count, I'm sure Cal will probably touch on that, but we did see quite a bit of an increase at the elementary level. I know I say it every day, but we are physically out of space, even though we have to add one more classroom. We are going to move a computer lab to an office. Hopefully we have enough space in there and lose a closet space that an office will become. So kind of shuffling there. And again, going through some growing pains in the elementary. Our playground again is not nearly big enough for the amount of kids we have out there during the day. So hopefully we can figure out a way to get the playground equipment up in the spring once the ground thaws out to alleviate some of that, because we're starting to feel it with recess concerns and stuff like that. Staffing has also been a tremendous challenge over the last 6 weeks or so. We've been able to manage it just by shutting some groups down that normally we wouldn't want to shut down, but there's really no other way to run the school without it. So hopefully eventually we can come up with a way to get more subs in the building too, which Laura does an incredible job with recruiting people to come in and do that and fill those positions every day. But it's definitely wearing on the staff a lot, stretching us very, very thin, especially coaches and things like that. So yeah, that's where we are. Looking forward to all good things though. A lot to celebrate academic wise. We had several students drastically increase their scores in our benchmark testing, which is exciting. I see data from other schools and I'm privy to some other things, and we need to be very, very proud as a staff what we've been able to accomplish considering the last couple of years. Yeah. Awesome. Thanks.
All right. You're also working on scheduling in the middle school and getting ready for next year. Those similar to what Richard is going through at this time. We do have, Cal will probably talk about it, but we had a few applicants that came in for the special ed position for the 4th and 5th grade, 5th and 6th grade position. A lot of them came from the Philippines. That I'm trying to look for someone closer for right now for this end of the year. A new teacher, brand new out of the hatch, has applied that is not a special education teacher, but would help us to put a certified teacher into that space from now until the end of the year, that I'm hoping that he's going to put that forward at some point in the future. But also looking at a potential person that could come on as a student teacher in special education doing their final practicums, and then looking forward to maybe working with them, having stayed through the end of the year if it's possible. So maybe a little light on the end of the tunnel for the special education deficit that we're feeling, and all of the staffing deficit. It has been a challenge. I gave you all a pamphlet on standards-based grading, and this is just
an adaptation. This has taken on many different forms because it has questions that kids have asked us before that they put to me. This is several years of different writings that are in here, but I wanted to talk through it a bit because the question comes up here and there. I think it's important to go back and look at it. When I talk about standards-based grading, I in no way mean to put down anyone who is not standards-based grading. There are many different types of grading, and there's different types of assessment that work in different systems. So I just wanted to speak to this a little bit about this. At this school, when we initially talked about this several years ago, we worked on mindset and what we thought about growth mindset, because it took a lot of shifting of our thinking to be able to think, what do we need from grading and assessment? What do we use it for? What do we intend to mean or portray to other people when we put out a report card, or when we're sharing reports from benchmark testing or from state tests? And so on the opening of this, it just says that we can do hard things. This was not an easy thing. It would have been much simpler to teach people how to teach categories and tell them on tests, give this many points and percentages, and we'll get a grade out of that. It took a lot of learning, and it takes a lot of special knowledge that the teachers have to have in order to be able to do it well. And again, I put on there, we have Maya Angelou there, do the best you can until you know better. And when you know better, then do better. Richard often tells me to just do better, Tina. No,
I tell everyone.
just do better. And I'm not going to go through every little bit of this, but I'm just turning the page, and I'm on the page with the cat. The cat is Georgie W. And Georgie W is my cat. He passed away now a week and a half ago, but this is him when he's a kitten. If we go back to 2002, when George W. Bush, who the cat is named for, that's when he put forth No Child Left Behind. And that's a marker for me in all of this, that there was a call to the people on our education, right, to have all kids achieve a certain level. And there's pros and cons of that No Child Left Behind. But it did put out that if we're expecting all kids to reach these certain levels, what are those levels? What does that mean? What do we mean by that? What are we trying to reach for? What does everybody need to get to, right? And we knew there was a lag from previous to that. I could go back to Reagan about how we knew there was a lag. But at any rate, the cat reminds me, this has been a 20-year process, right? 20 years into the making. After that call, we had standards in Montana, but we joined with other groups and looked at standards as they came from all different directions. It depended on the content areas. But Montana regularly was adopting standards before, and they continued to adopt. And this is just the adoption time. Standards themselves were not new. Standards that were common to other states or similar, that was more new. Right? That was more of a different idea. The second page or third here, this just has some of the reports, SFACs, testing that gets recorded, and state report card. We end up seeing the standards show up in many different formats, okay, and they get presented. What is a standard? Learning standards are written descriptions of what students are expected to know and be able to do at each grade level. They're written in progressions, which we'll talk about later. And this was more than you must take so many hours of English. You have to know these certain things at certain levels within English. It got much more succinct about what we must know when in order to reach a proficiency level at the top that you're ready for college. There's not a gap between your high school education and your beginning college years. That's basically what started all of this. There was a gap at the top. Could be a gap. The standards-based grading, I circled on mine here that it's a system. This isn't just where the grading is in line with the curriculum, and the curriculum is aligned to the standards. The tests we give throughout the year and at the end of the year, they are also aligned to those standards. We do not teach to a test. The test is measuring what we should have been teaching all along. We're not teaching to a test. We're not teach to a test. The kids are tested on standards in their coursework, and with the benchmark STAR test, the Montana Science Assessment, the Smarter Balance Summative Assessment, the math, science, and reading curriculums are all based on these standards. So it's a system. It's not that something that just comes up when it comes to the grading. It's a system. Our grading scale, we have proficiency. and which we really need to think of as mastery. It does not mean you just nosed over the edge of something. It means you're skillful at something. You have nearing proficient, you're inconsistently or incompletely demonstrating that proficiency and that skill or that understanding. A novice, not yet, or it's new to you. You might have some elements of it. Advanced, you could score advanced if you're regularly showing that you're above and beyond that standard. And IE is an insufficient evidence where maybe a child, Richard, could you please shut the door there or somebody put that door on the side? Insufficient evidence, if we're not seeing the kid hasn't turned in, I really can't tell you if it's not, he or she is proficient or not. We don't have the evidence to tell you. And you might have that with a lot of absences or something. A student who's missed 2/3 of the school year might have a lot of IEs. There's just a little piece that talks about traditional grading systems and standards-based grading. I can let you look at that on your own. It's kind of light, but it's there. Instead of a single letter grade, students receive grades for multiple learning targets on the standards, and they can see which concepts they understood well and which they need to improve on. It provides explanations of the concepts and material that students should know at each point in their education. And later on, we'll look at I have examples of the report cards in here where we have an omnibus grade where you just have a grade for the whole course, or where you have grades that show for essential standards. I'm on this piece right here. This one's really of interest. It's about 4 in, and it has the grading formats, the standards, the grades of 2 students, and the questions at the end. And this is what can happen as an educator when you're looking at a score. You go into a meeting and you're supposed to either help advance a student or maybe they need remediation. And you're just looking at where they're at. And I have a standard there. It says write the expressions that record operations with numbers and with letters standing for numbers. For example, express the calculation, subtract y from 5 as 5 minus y. Anyways, there's your math standard. And then we have examples of traditional grading of what a kid might have gotten on there. And there's the grades of 2 students, student A and student B. And they both come out with a D. But there's something different about those 2 students when you look at their scores, if you were to have all the scores. One kid has an 80%, then gets a 70, then a 40 and a 70. Showing you something probably inconsistent and has a D. You have another kid that has a 30%, a 55, a 85, and a 90%, and now has a D. And the way I was taught about this is you can imagine a parachute packer. I don't know which one of the great instructionals told us this, but if you were packing parachutes, which one of those kids are you going to get in their parachute with? The kid who got an 80% on the first, maybe they learned the parts of the parachute and they did really good on their first test, but when it came down to the end of it, they had a 70% on their parachute packing, right? But student B, maybe in the beginning didn't know much about parachutes, got a 30%, steadily got better, and in the end has a 90%, but now we give them a D. And how it works in our system when we're looking at to advance a kid, and I'm talking about elementary, I'm not talking about any other place in the world, but right here, the way that we use these is to either advance kids and give them new instruction, know how to change our own instruction, and this type of grading doesn't really do it for us. Okay, it just, there's a lot of things about it. When you look on the side, what does the final grade tell you about the learner and writing expressions? The final grade, if you have that final grade on there, you pass that on. What does the final grade tell about the learner? And what does this tell the next teacher or parent about the student's mastery level? We want the grades to reflect the actual mastery level. There's an example below there of standards-based grading. I do not mean that these percentiles equal these P's and P and P, but you can see where that progression is different on there, where the child maybe was proficient, nearing proficient, novice, nearing proficient, and in the end, the teacher would have to make a determination on that and determine that the child was nearing proficient. They have it sometimes, but not consistently. And then we can see on the other one where we see this progression of a kid who's learned it and gained mastery over that skill. So it's comparing sort of apples to oranges when we just look at percentage scales and looking at giving a standards-based grade that's talking about the actual proficiency or mastery of a skill or standard. We can go through this, but these are some of the questions I've had. Does this prepare students for high school? And the former Glacier High School principal supported the standards-based grading, said that he preferred SPG because it gives a clear picture of what students have mastered versus what they have not. We didn't have reservations about it. Our sister schools, Evergreen and Kalispell, middle school, both use the same system, similar. I guess it's similar. Who does this help more? These are questions from kids. Who does this help more, teachers grading or students getting good grades? So it's kind of in kid format. Originally, I asked the kids, what are your questions about this? And some of the benefits are there that I've heard from teachers. Teachers can serve their students better when they understand the progression of learning, allows teachers to provide feedback on individual skills. I know Mrs. Black wanted me to add that it helps her when she thinks of it as a math teacher for children not to say, I'm so bad at math. They might be good in a domain in math or have areas they've mastered, but if they said, I'm terrible at fractions right now, not, I'm just bad at math. We don't say, I'm bad at ELA. I don't know where the semicolon goes, I just can tell you right now, I really don't know where the semicolon goes, but I'm pretty good at ELA. So there's benefits for teachers there, benefits for students on the back. And I think that's something we can keep going into and teaching students about. I think that sometimes we're moving along and maybe haven't taught often enough to our older level students what this exactly means for them at an age where they could grasp that. I think we have to keep going back into that and let them know that as learners, about how they're being assessed. And there's a question from kids, are all middle schools and even high schools changing to standards-based grading? Been around for a long time. You'll find a mix out there. I sat at the principals conference recently, listening in a breakout session with Big Sky High School is going to standards-based grading. And it's a 3-year process. And they're in that, and they were, fielding questions and also we're sharing the questions that they're getting from people. It's hard. It's a big endeavor that they're taking. And so is everybody going to go to it? I think by the time everybody went to it, we're going to continue and the evolution of grading will continue. I don't think this is the end all be all of grading. In my career, I'm sure we'll probably see another evolution of this. But for our level of school, our level, it works well. Why is it possible to get advanced in some classes but not in others? A kid asked me that. You don't get a single grade for a course, or you shouldn't if we actually look through the grade book. I know some levels still give a single one if you see it on the report card, but if you went to the teacher, they'd be able to show you the different areas of the domain for them. Up at the 6th or 8th level, they pretty much do not get a single grade. Students receive marks of proficiency related to the standards that are taught, and this is a work in progress. The teachers have their own proficiency levels within that, and they work hard to learn that. A student in any course will be graded for the performance in the standards of that course level. Attending an advanced course does not ensure marks of advanced. Just because I don't know what would be comparable, algebra 2 trig, it doesn't mean I get advanced in calculus because I'm taking an advanced math class. I must now go into that next class. And it's no different with standards-based grading. I must now go into my next level. Even if I'm in 7th, I've moved up to 8th grade algebra or whatever it be, I must now show proficiency and mastery of those skills. And why can't students be told they're failing? And are you trying to be softer on the kids? So that's a kid question. We want to relay honest information to students, a clear picture of how a student is performing, advanced, novice, nearing proficient, and proficient having mastery. Sometimes we use pass fail. It's important to the teacher, the student, and parents. A learner is on a spectrum from this is new to I've got this. And it's our big question during our PLCs. What do we do when they know it, when they've got this, and what do we do when they don't know it? And that ties into our PLC teams when we're working together on Fridays. Our reporting language matches that of our assessments. The summative assessment scores are similar to the daily work scores. And one of the teachers mentioned that should over time be helpful to parents to understand it's all one language. We don't speak a different thing. The children see these objectives on the board. They see it in their textbooks. It should be common academic language to them. This is just an anecdotal note, this next one here. I'm just going to keep going. I know this is long, but question comes up we're talking about. This is my own experience. So this is in the 16-17 school year, and this is not, we have to think back then that we did not have our new curriculum. The standards had changed. Our curriculum was the same. I don't know what new training the teachers would have. I don't want to place this on any certain group of people who have the responsibility of this, but as a principal, I was looking through, I go through it and I look at those 3rd quarter grades Because I want to see, are we in line to be where we should be for these kids in their next steps? And it's just the way I was trained, and I was looking, and these are the kids here in their grades. And there was 1 F, 3 Ds, 6 Cs, 23 Bs, and 34 As. If you saw that and you were the principal or the teacher, you would think, hey, we've got this. We're going to do fine on these summative tests. Our kids got their stuff down, right? And this is what they had: 21 novice, 14 nearing proficient, 8 proficient, and 14 advanced. And when I saw that, and I saw it in other areas, we have to be the best teachers. You know, the best teachers were in those classrooms doing what they know. It's not for lack of good teaching. You have to be teaching the right things and knowing what you're looking for and how to remediate that or to advance kids. You know, you have to know where you're going with these kids and knowing your standards and your progressions, what came before, what came after, and what are the most important key standards. Some standards you can be so-so because they're going to get represented, they're going to come back again. But there are some that you're the final note at that grade level, you're it, and it doesn't come back again. And the teachers have to know what's the standard. So there's power standards. So that's just something, just letting you know, that's something that can happen when we're doing the other type of grading for whatever it is. And I could analyze that a bunch of different ways, but it's like a big showstopper. They're like, okay, what are we doing? How many grades do students have and what do report cards look like? There can be several different marks. We can go ahead and go forward a couple until you see this. And this is kind of light, and I apologize for that. I couldn't get it lighter or darker off the slides. But the top one has a report card of what our report cards used to look like. It would have the course, 6 algebra track, has a teacher, and then the quarter grade is a C, and it may or may not have comments. That's a traditional grading, and it's called an omnibus grade. If you sat down with the teacher, you would find out a lot more about that. It does not, that too is not as simple as it looks. But here, that would be what we would be portraying. When you look at the next one, this is an example of a newer report card and what they look like. And you'll see where the standards are listed and then the child's proficiency on that standard. And most often you will see power or essential standards, those key standards I told you that they need for the strength to go on to the next thing. They cannot report. They have a lot of standards. And anyone who teaches knows there are a lot of standards. This would be many, many pages long if we put them all here. So they went through as groups and looked at what were power and essential standards. And it would be good at some point for the grade levels to do that again and see if we feel that has changed at all. But that was the initial work that the staff put in and did. So that's just a different looking report card if you haven't seen a kid's report card in a while. How is eligibility for sports and school activities going to work? It's based on attendance, behavior referrals, and their learner attributes. So back on this report card, under this WV1 science, there's a strives for quality work. We have learner attributes that the teachers chose, and they will mark those if that's where a child's effort, the quality of their work, their attending, how well they're responding and engaging with the class could go into those areas. So eligibility or ability to play is based on attendance, behavior referrals, and learner attributes. Okay, and I would say that if a child has those things in place, they probably have it in them to go put that time forward at an activity, you know, be an athlete, go work on the annual, whatever else it might be. How does this affect West Valley? I just wrote, it can be a better learning experience, and there's many reasons why within that. But it also, again, I just bring it back to our system that it supports the multi-tiered system of support, which is supported through the OPI in our state. And being able to, for the most part, put our energy towards that tier 1, that's your general kid that's out there. It gives you help with your energy. You're going along with these tier 1 kids, but being able to see when there's an outlier, when we need to remediate, when we need to advance a child, and how that can happen within a classroom. These teachers might differentiate in the moment. It could be what they're asking a child to read. It could be in their questioning. They may expect a little bit different on an assignment. And it can go further on to maybe the child needs to go to a different grade level for a course. You know, it can be bigger, more broad. And we have one child that's under review right now for grade skipping. So, I mean, it can be from like in the moment on the fly, how the teacher's adjusting, and it can be a broader system-wide where those coaches are looking at data, looking at progress, speaking with their teachers. So it's part of a system. And so there's a lot more to it than just, I compare the other grade, the traditional ones, I understand them quickly because I was given those in school. And I guess that's like my kid's spelling test. I understand the spelling when it comes home. I don't understand some of the newer stuff. He might come home, I didn't have that. And it's easy for me to grab onto what was known. But we're in a time of progression, and this is what we progress to on our grading.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I can answer questions at any time. I know I've used a lot of time now. I can answer questions now. You're welcome to call me if you have questions. Come to mind.
You'll need to take out a sheet of paper and have a pencil, and we're taking a quiz on standards-based grading right now. So obviously it's fast. Good
It's just,
stuff.
there's
Good
just a
stuff.
lot to it.
Good
And
stuff.
it's not simple.
Not simple.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so a couple things here. I know Richard talked about space and the lack thereof. And so we are, I'm having Phil right now, as we did out here behind the elementary school or at the classrooms last year. We're looking at the possibility of adding 4 classrooms over here. Just, there's that pad out here, a possible 4-unit classroom over here as well. Now, that will be somewhat contingent upon the bond. If the bond passes, we wouldn't go forward with that project because we wouldn't really need to. I think we can manage for the next couple of years, without doing that. And so, but if it doesn't, we probably will look at doing that. We're having to get some bids on prices for different things right now. I'm going to guesstimate right now at approximately $350,000 to $400,000 to build that 4-unit classroom over there. So, and we'll get you some more details on that as we go, but it will be definitely waiting to see first before we go forward with it, and so I'll let you know more about that as the time comes. And we'd be able to use ESSER funds for that. We still have ESSER funds from that we can expend up into 2024, actually. So the ESSER 3 funds, which was the 3rd phase of that. So we would, it's considerably less than I know we had CTA or Cushing Terrell give us a look at what a 4-unit classroom would be if they added it on out here, and that was close to about $1.5 million, just to add on. This one wouldn't be hooked onto the building; it'd be separate, but it wouldn't be too far. It's just right over here next to that path. So that's a possibility in the future. So we'll look at that. Bond passes, which let's be optimistic, right? We should be optimistic about it. And then we don't have to do that. CSCT. How many of you know what CSCT is? Yeah, I know you would get you. So I'll explain it. Yeah. Comprehensive School and Community Treatment. So it's basically our AltaCare, essentially is what it is. Our AltaCare has been in place for, I want to say 9 years now. And so when we did that, when we put it in place, all we really had to do is provide a place for them to be, telephone to use, copier, those kinds of things, nothing else. We didn't have to do any in kind other than that. That's changed with the last legislative session, that some of the funding was cut for that. So there's been bridge funding from OPI for the last up and through December, and now that's not there anymore. And so districts have had to decide how they want to proceed with it. So CSCT is a little bit different than what's called SBOT, which is school-based outpatient therapy. So it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different how you do it within a building. So, but the big difference is that if we stayed with the CSCT program the way it is now, we would have to come up with 1/3 of the funds for what they get billed through AltaCare, basically. Okay, so I'll just give you a number. So 1/3 of the funds might be $8,000 a month. So if we have to come up with this $8,000 a month, we have to take it out of an account that's not federal money. So it has to come from our transportation fund or whatever fund we have enough money to do it in. It goes to OPI. OPI sends it on to Medicaid. Medicaid sends us money back. Now, I don't know exactly how it works. Nobody really does, actually. It's kind of I don't want to use it as a bad term, but some have said it's I don't know, I should say it's money laundering. Some have said it's kind of like a shell game, that you play, whatever it is. But the problem with it is, even if we get this money back that we've already expended, it can't go back into the same account because then that would be federal money. So it gets really messy. And so most districts have decided to forego the CSCT and go to SBOT, which means you don't have to have those funds sent to those organizations. It's a little bit different on how it gets delivered, but we can still do it through AltaCare. And the main thing is we can still service kids. That's the biggest thing, and so for the rest of this year, I've contacted AltaCare and we need to get the paperwork going on that, but we'll do the SBOT model through them. Logan Health is also doing and looking at doing a SBOT model. And I think Kalispell and maybe a couple other schools may go that route too. So I've talked extensively with Rhonda Vic, our AltaCare worker. And, best case scenario, we could have stayed with that CSCT, but it's just not conducive right now to do that. And it's just too cumbersome. And I just don't, my biggest thing is, I didn't know that money's coming back, first of all, and if it's coming back, we have to put it in a place, we can't really use it, we only use it for certain things. So anyways, that's a long-winded story about how we're going about this. Does anybody have any questions about it?
Do we have to approve that change before it can happen?
What's that?
Do we need to approve that change?
No, we don't as a board have to approve it because it's just a difference in how they deliver the service through AltaCare. Yeah. So, yeah. Kind of convoluted and it's been a mess, really, to be honest with you, but we'll get the service kids either way. Congratulations. I thought maybe Tina would bring this up, but you can bring it up too, Tina, is a robotics competition that we had. 3 teams have made it onto state. Mr. Honkoop is in charge of that, and now they're on, I think it's Bozeman, is that where they're headed to for the competition? I think that's where they're going, yeah. So congratulations to them, it was good. First year they've done it, so that's pretty neat too. So the next one is it's the CI 121 possible bill that they're looking at putting through. Do any of you know about this bill? That's the taxation bill that they're looking at doing. What is, and I don't want to make this a political thing because you say, oh, it's the right doing this and the left doing this and whatever. What it basically boils down to is this: and I think it's really a good thing. It's just not necessarily a good thing for schools, because what happens is you have this bill that they're putting forward where they want to put a cap on your property taxes, basically, because if you've seen, your house has gone up in value, right? And when your house goes up in value, so do your taxes. And it could be a certain percentage. Maybe you could probably even describe this because you've probably seen it, right, in your work. So let's say your taxes go up 13% in a year, right, or 15%, or whatever the value of your home goes up, your taxes may go up proportionately somehow to that. So when in Montana, that's the way it is. In some states, that's not the way it is. And so in some states, they have a cap of 2%, or it could be the inflationary amount for that year. So what this bill would do if passed, it would put a cap on the amount of increase you would have on your property taxes. So, and they're going to put it, I think, at 2% is what they're going to do, or inflationary increase, which could be 1.2%, let's say. So it's whatever the lesser is, that's what your property taxes would go up that year. So the drawback to it, as far as public education goes, is there would be a shortfall, because we get a lot of our money through property taxes. There would be a shortfall in the amount of money the state would have, or your local, taxes paid going to your school districts. Now, they don't have an exact number yet necessarily. Some have said 90 million in the first 3 years, would be the state amount or whatever. And I don't know how that relates to each school, how that would relate, but there would be a significant decrease in the funds. So how do you make up for that? Well, this happened in California, I think back in the 80s. I can't remember when they did this. It's Proposition 13, and some other states have done it too. And what they found was homeowners liked it, which is right. I would too. I mean, it's kind of a double-edged sword for us in education because it's good. You want your property taxes capped. But when they did it, it played kind of havoc with the school system a little bit in California when they did it, because they were losing millions of dollars that would normally go to the schools, public education, and so some of that is, and I would encourage you to read on this. It's CI 121. You can, you can Google it, look it up. It's all right there. And it's, I think 60,000 people, I think, have to sign a petition for it to go into the legislative session. And then it would be going to the delegate assembly and all that, and they would put it as a bill. And like I said, raise your hand if you're a homeowner would like your property taxes capped. I mean, yeah, most people would, and so it's tough. So what California did when this happened is they had a sales tax. They've had a sales tax forever, right? I think maybe it was the 70s. I'd have to go back and look at the article. They had a 3.25, I think, sales tax and everything, and it jumped to like 7.5 at that particular time. So it almost doubled, I guess, essentially a little bit more. I mean, I think their sales tax is even more now, but they had to do that to compensate for the loss of funds that they weren't getting, from the property tax. And so either that, or what happens is, well, I guess what happens is if you don't have your funds, what happens to your school? You have to start cutting things. And what some of the schools did was they cut electives. Some of them was art programs, music programs, different things like that got cut from the schools. So I don't know the outcome. I don't know, like I said, it's kind of a double-edged sword. I'd love to see a cap, but it's tough when you don't have something to replace those funds with, so you have to decide, and, if it becomes a bill, it has to get approved. So look it up. You can look it up for yourself too and kind of look through it, but it's probably gonna happen. I think they'll probably get the signatures for it. So, and like I said, most homeowners like it. So you just don't always understand the whole ramifications to it. Any
It's
questions
gonna
about
play
that?
havoc on the whole emergency services
Yeah.
and all that too. I mean, it's gonna be more than just schools. It's gonna-
It gets volatile because the money jumps when the homes resale and the value goes up, then the new assessment is on that and it gets really volatile with the market. So,
I think something needs to be on tax reform.
Yeah.
I think that's gonna be tough.
Yeah, there'll be a lot to it. It's gonna be that, exactly. So anyway. So that's coming down the pike. So we've been meeting and having interviews with bulk media. I don't know how many people they totally interviewed. Had to be up to around 10 or so. I
Yeah,
think, maybe
send
something like that. So we'll have those videos to share and share out pretty soon. We'll be doing a lot of other things too with the bond promotion and getting that out to folks too. So just be ready for some thrill sharing that we're going to send out to different things. So, but it was good. I think there's some real good heartfelt. Apparently there were some tears in a couple of them. So that's good. It's heartfelt. It's good, genuine, discussion when they were going through that. So look forward to those coming pretty soon. We're going to do a special board meeting. I think Cecilia, did you maybe tentatively schedule for Thursday?
This Thursday at 4, yeah. It's a new hire and then a resignation. But
Yeah.
Didn't make the cutoff for this time. So,
Just do a Zoom.
yeah, just a Zoom. I mean,
Yeah,
it'll
it'll
be
be
10 minutes probably. Yeah. I should probably verify.
it's the one Tina was talking about earlier, I think, so.
Yeah.
Could fill that spot, but we also have one resignation for sure. We have a teacher who's moving to Eastern Montana, it's of course a special ed. So that's gonna make it equally, how many special ed positions do we actually have? 2?
take 2,
Yeah,
and by
2.
the end of the year, we would need possibly 3.
So now there's some good news with that too, because you can hire a certified teacher, and if they're willing and want to maybe move into special ed, they can be endorsed and OPI pays for that. Or you can apply to have that. So that's, we're gonna have to be creative, I guess. What it comes down to. So, but we'll do that. Sean Erickson was the special ed teacher who gave me her letter today for resignation. We have possibly another math teacher in the middle school is gonna be moving to a southern state. And I don't want to really bring that up unless for sure I get the letter, but it's pretty much etched in stone. So what you're seeing is these teachers are able to sell their houses for quite a bit here and move to states such as that you can buy a house maybe twice as big even, and live in a mansion, but I guess you have to live in Alabama or someplace like that, which I'm not saying is bad. It's different. And I think she has family there too. So anyway, it was going to be have to be creative with some of our hirings, and hopefully we don't have too many more resignations for those types of reasons. So we are looking at least right now 8 positions, counting the early retirements, plus some of the other ones that we've talked about here already that we'll need to advertise for, which is good. We're early, but if you've looked in the paper at all, you already see folks that are, Kyle, I think's one, Evergreen's had them out there already for different positions. So the earlier, the better. And especially when you're looking at hard to fill positions. So we'll have a tech position, a couple special ed positions, a music teacher position, and math position possibly. Plus some others. So we want to get them out there.
I counted today on the OPI website. There are currently, as of today, 44 special education jobs open in the state.
In state.
Mhm.
And there's probably nobody graduating
Yeah.
from the
not
colleges
many.
especially.
Right. Yeah. But anyways, so that's where we're at. And that's all. I have.
Okay, moving on to action items, consideration of transportation reimbursement claims, bus routes and individual.
Well, that is the claim that I submitted to OPI just for our reimbursement. So OPI reimburses us for the cost of transportation. Is that what that is? It's like a portion of what we pay, they must reimburse us back for it. And then the individual ones are two students that go to the special ed pre-K that we reimburse the parents. I think it's like $50 that we reimburse them to take to the preschool. Yeah, I can figure that check. I'll make a motion to approve the reimbursement.
All right, with motion and a second, any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, call for mail ballot trustee election. There are 3 of us are up.
So when I got to thinking about this today, because 2 of them are 3-year terms, obviously, and one of them is a 1-year term. And so I posed questions to MTSBA because I didn't know the answers to it, basically, and is to ask the question, because Gretchen's is a 1-year term, obviously, and the other 2 are 3-year terms. So my 2 questions were, one is if, let's say all 3 incumbents run, right? And you have more too, besides they're running on top of that. But you are in the top 3, let's say, right? Does that keep you at the incumbent spot? Which I would assume it does, because that's how you were appointed. The other question I posed was if you don't run, and let's say nobody runs, none of the incumbents run, and you have 3 or 4 new people who run, the top 3 vote getters, is it the 3rd place person who takes the 1-year term? I don't know. So I emailed MTSBA to find out, to see how that works and the process for that. So I don't
You
know.
were back.
I just emailed it before the meeting, so it just came to me. It's like, that doesn't make sense.
Is there
Yeah,
a
people
specific
running.
designation for that one spot?
That's what I don't get.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna find that out.
Well,
So,
even like you said, even if the 3 of us got,
yeah,
who gets that spot?
exactly. Well, I would assume since she was appointed, it would be her, because that was an appointment. I don't know, so I'll find out. Unless you guys know before.
Oh, it makes sense to me, just run it as a separate spot.
Seems like it, yeah.
But-
Yeah, I'll find out.
We've
anyway
always
before
done,
we
but
Put the ballot out there, yeah.
It can't be the first person time, that's.
Yeah.
No, it's first time
Gotta be
here,
a
so.
precedent.
Right.
Yeah, or just the person have to say, I want to run for that spot.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
I don't know, that's what I'm gonna
I
find out,
wonder if that's what it is, like I'll run for those spots, but I won't run for that spot.
which I'm not sure why you'd want to do that.
No.
So
necessarily,
how
because
would
then
you
gotta
put
run
that,
again
how would
next
you
year
put that on the
anyways.
ballot?
Right.
It would be 2 different positions and it'd be different names for that position.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay,
I don't know.
I'll let you know.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, we need.
Yeah, I
to-
think you can still do it, yeah.
Yep. Okay, so we need a motion.
Motion to approve the trustee resolution calling.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, next, call for our mail ballot bond election.
So hopefully you had a chance to go through that and read through it. It gives a pretty detailed description of what the bond would cover. There are a few kind of generalities, but it's mostly the land acquisition, things like that. But it's still fairly specific, what it's for. Yeah, so I mean, really, that's what goes out to the public so they can see, what they're voting on essentially. When they go out to put their vote for the bond.
teacherage, we build housing for, make that a sign-on bonus.
Might have to. It's like a blade unit, things down there by the Ace Hardware.
That's right. I know, for teachers.
Well, have you seen what they've done over in Evergreen?
Heard what
Those
they've
ones
done
from the
over at
Balkans,
Evergreen.
those
Yeah.
cubicle things.
I hope they put some, looks like cardboard on the outside.
Well, they're gonna redo the outline and make those studio apartments for around 1,000 a month or something. Is it 50?
And then do you see how they got people out of there? Golden paid everybody 10 grand.
Oh,
Did you see that?
I did.
Yeah.
Really?
Everybody that was living there got a check for $10,000.
But
Well,
when,
that's not gonna help
I
you get another place.
and the guy at the Smart House says it'll cost him 30,000 to house those 100 in the new armory, which isn't finished yet. So that 10,000.
Yeah.
Everything is down the road, and the fact of the matter is, there's still such a shortage of building supplies, that everything is up in the air.
Yeah.
You can say we've got all these thousands of apartments waiting in the wings, but
Yeah.
there's no carpenters and there's no building supplies.
Once you get, they're gonna be $1,500 to $2,000 a
Right.
month for the apartments too.
Well, they went first and last month.
Yeah,
all
that's
sorts of
right.
stuff. That's, I mean, that $10,000. But I think that was to help them to maybe get free for getting them out of there.
It's gonna be an issue. Well, I tell you what's gonna be an issue
Yeah,
for, it's gonna be an
it's
issue for
yeah.
finding teachers. It already has been.
Right.
You know, because one, there isn't housing here available. If there is housing, it's not affordable to a brand new teacher coming down, you know, and that's something we've never had to deal with before, you know, as far as that goes. So when you interview somebody, you guys, you pretty much have to ask them the question, you know, do you have housing here? Because people have taken jobs, can't find housing, then don't take the job.
Right.
You know, so.
We put an ad in for the dairy. I bet I've had 12 phone calls this past week. People looking for working on the dairy. They want to work with cows and tractors. In any case, I make it sound really good. But we have
Calling you right now.
people- I mean, I've got people from all over. And my first question is, do you have a place to live here?
Yeah.
I don't want a bunch of people moving here. I don't want to have to be responsible for, talking to you about trying to find. a place
Well,
to
they
live.
probably think they can live at your place.
I was gonna say, well, they are now.
We have 3 trailers there, but they're all full.
It's gonna get
It's
increasingly
bad, though.
difficult.
What are you gonna do?
Okay, so back to our
Yep.
call for bond,
Yeah.
mail ballot, man, we kind of went off on a little tangent there. That's mail ballot bond election.
Do we need to
We
make
need a
Yeah.
motion, yep.
a move that we, okay, the bond election?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, and the next one, consideration of MTSBA resolution. So it's the time of year that districts can actually give something to them that they can take to the legislative session to try to make some changes. And I have been part of a board chair group that meets once a month with Sue Corrigan and Jill Rockland from Columbia Falls and Katie Clark from Whitefish and Mary Obermiller from Summers Lakeside. And we were talking about that House Bill 279 where the money, they were able to donate the $1 million and it went in like 4 minutes and one district got $675,000. It was big sky that doesn't even need the money. So we wanted to submit a resolution to make some changes for that, which is what this document is. And SD5 has approved it, and Katie just emailed me right before the meeting, because they had their meeting last night in Whitefish, and they approved it. And we hopefully can approve it tonight, and Columbia Falls will hopefully approve it tonight. And then we will submit this to MTSBA, and we'll have all of our districts' names on it, so that then they can take it to the delegate assembly, and hopefully, and the big changes are in number 4. So basically that we want MTSBA should pursue a reduction in the individual cap on donations on the public side to ensure broader opportunities for participation in the credit and corresponding support of a larger number of Montana taxpayers in various financial circumstances. The definition of an innovative educational program, which determines both the purpose of donations and the expenditure restrictions for schools, should be broadened to include capital expenditures that foster innovation in public education. And then this last part, a lottery process for those timely submitting, a lottery process for those timely submitting their intent to donate funds should be employed to ensure broader distribution of the benefits of such donations, something comparable to the lottery process passed into law for transformational learning grants in House Bill 89,
So,
just so that it doesn't go as fast.
so something to think about. This bill changed from, you could do it, it's a tax patch basically, or a tax credit. So you could, back before they changed it, you could only do it for $150 total. So you could do it one, it's a 150 to 150 match essentially for your taxes. Well, they changed it now. Any individual or I guess corporation or whatever can do $200,000. Well, there's only $1 million out there. And that was the problem. It was the people who punched the button fastest over there that got the money or got the credit, essentially. And so some of them were big donors. There was about, I think about 70,000 maybe in Kalispell that ended up getting it to Kalispell School District. A few other smaller ones in the area. But I think it was a very small number of people total. I think
Well, it
less.
says 23 donors benefiting 10 public schools in 9 cities.
So, and then what'll happen is next year, I think it goes up to 1.5 million, then it goes up to 2 million, because what they were waiting to see, which we knew was gonna happen, they were waiting to see if 80% of that first $1 million got used. Well, it was like 5 minutes. And it was
Yeah,
done,
like 4
so, I mean,
minutes.
it was,
They had to
over
wait
done,
to see.
which we knew was gonna happen,
Yeah.
so, because it's public and private. So it isn't just public school, private school too, can do it as well, so.
So, well, anyway, I mean, an individual district can submit a resolution, but MTSBA said it has a little bit more teeth if they submit one that has multiple districts' names on it. So, anyway,
There just has to be a better way to do it.
So this would, we're saying we would support
MTSBA taking
going
this.
to the
Yeah.
legislature
and
to change
taking it,
the.
yeah.
And I agree with that. I agree.
I would make a motion that high school.
I second it. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any more discussion? All right, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, consideration of final approval for early retirement.
So we put this on here, I know you already approved it, and with the consideration that 3 or more people, did it, we have 4. So Mark and Renell Wilson, Becky Davis and John Chisholm, did it. They all did the 12,000, 6 and 6 next year, and the 6 year after that. So congratulations to them, good opportunity, for them. It's great. It's gonna be tough to fill some of those spots, but that's why we did it too, so we could get out early on it and make sure we can get some quality applicants. So I would recommend those 4.
Do we don't need- Well, no, we do.
Yeah, I
We
think
do.
you probably should.
Motion for the final. approval
Yeah.
for early retirement.
I'll second that. So we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
I would like to honor them in some way, whether it's the last school board meeting of the year.
Yeah, we thought we'd throw a pie in their
Costco cake.
face or something at the end of last year's. No,
Costco cake is
we'll
the
have
best
a-
way to celebrate.
we haven't, 2 years ago, I think, when Cindy fully retired, we planned this party, but that's when COVID hit, and so we couldn't. We did some stuff, it was different. And so, yeah, I agree. We'll put together, we still have this, we'll find a committee. We have a committee that does those kinds of things, so we'll make sure we have something put together.
But I think something specifically from this, from us.
Oh, okay.
Know it, but I don't know, or maybe we could just go to the party. I don't know.
Okay.
Okay. So, we didn't vote yet. Motion and a second. No more discussion. Okay.
We haven't, I would cut my traffic cake.
Yeah, you did. You did the parties. Now I'm thinking about parties. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, I don't like this next one. No. So, consideration of superintendent resignation.
Yeah, I don't like it either. It's a tough one. It was a tough decision. I don't say I don't like it. It was a tough decision. It was, but I feel good about it. I think it's right timing for lots of different reasons. I'm at peace with the decision. I think it's timing wise, it's a good time to do it. if you decide to do this and go forward with it, however it goes forward, I'll do whatever you need me to do to help with the transition. I'll do nothing if that's what you'd like to. I'm okay with that, because sometimes it's difficult in transitions. I say you have options if it is approved. One, to look for a new superintendent. There's different ways you can do it. You can go through MTSBA, which people have done in the past, and I'm not going to promote one or the other, to be honest with you. Bia Calva, who's a lawyer, an educational lawyer for the most part, she does it as well. And you can do it yourself as a board, and so you can put things together. And I'd be more than happy to help with that. I'd be more than happy to find questions, to vet candidates. Because the one thing I do have is a pretty wide knowledge of just about everybody in the state of Montana, to be honest with you. Some in Washington and some in Idaho as well, and so not that matters, but I could certainly let you know, what's what with some of them and whatever. But I don't want to be involved unless you want me to be involved. So I will tell you this, that I'm super proud of the work we've done here over the last 10 years. I can tell you that in that 10 years, 73% of the staff is new during that time. So we've got a carryover of about 27% of our staff from that 10-year period. And most of them were good hires. And a few that are in the audience I'm not too sure about. But not you, Brent, because you were here, right?
Yeah, exactly.
No, really good. Really, I mean, that's our strength by far is our staff, and they just do a fantastic job. But in that time frame, we've gone from 525 kids to when I counted them, I had over 800 kids. I know what it says on the A&B report, 779 or whatever it is, but I think we're higher. We got over 800 now. So we had about 50 staff members, and now we got 92. All that without passing a levy. A lot of that's because we have so many more kids and we're able to get A&B for that, but that is also a huge jump in evaluations, in mentoring, and all the different things that I think we've done a good job of putting together over the last period of time. But I do want to say, our staff is super caring. They're just professional people dedicated to delivering top-notch education to our kids, and so I would, and I've said this before, I'd put our staff up against anybody in the state of Montana as far as, working with kids, and not just academics, but the social, emotional aspects of it too, that we've done such a good job with over the past years. I will tell you, I didn't tell you last time when we had our other session, but I have applied for the Flathead County Superintendent position. That's an elected position. And I wouldn't know the results of that for sure until probably November. I think unless somebody, I don't know exactly, there's a primary in June. And then if there's no candidates to run against you, then you win by acclamation. But I think you can also still have a write-in after that. So I don't think it's actually official until November in that time frame. And then you take over that position if I was elected in January 1 of 2023. I also have some opportunities to work for the SAM organization in a mentoring role, different things. And so for me, I don't want to be out of education. Here's a real reason. I'll be honest with you. I'm not ready to retire necessarily, because if I retire, my wife's still going to be working for 3 or 4 years, and she's going to have a honeydew list like no other. So I don't get paid for that, So I want to make sure that I stay in education in some form, and there's lots of opportunities to do that. So that's exciting too. But I can tell you that the time here has been good. It's been really good. I've enjoyed my time at West Valley, and it's. I think we can always say that we made decisions for the interest of the kids, the best interest of the kids, every time we made a decision here at West Valley. And that if I can say that at the end of the day, I feel good about what we've done here. I always used to make the saying too that I'd rather get it right than have to be right. So for me, it's not about me being right; it's about getting it right. So whoever has the right, that's a collaborative effort by staff. That if they have good ideas, great, let's run with it. It doesn't have to be any one person's idea to make that happen. So, and I think we've done that over time. But I truly feel like it's been a pleasure to work here the last 10 years, and I do thank you. I thank the board. You guys have been great to work with, and you didn't micromanage, necessarily, and you let me be me. Sometimes that was a scary thing at times, but for the most part, I think we pulled it through pretty good. So anyways, thank you for your time, and you guys can can decide what you want to do.
Nobody wants to make a motion to accept it.
I make the motion to accept superintendent resignation.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Then I just want to say thanks, and I like the plan of you being around until next December too. I think that's gonna be great for transition for the school, but also just to add that support for us too. I think that's wonderful. Thank you.
Do whatever you need.
So when do we talk about who's going to put the?
Now,
I would do it
information
now.
out?
yeah, now, because it needs to go out tomorrow.
That's exactly right. So
Mhm.
I guess I think if Cal's willing to contact some, it's all about individuals. And if you're willing to contact some individuals that you know that might be able to help with that, rather than going with that kind of generic MTSBA thing, I guess.
I guess if you want my 2 cents, in the times that I've dealt, and I like MTSBA in many ways, I don't particularly think they've always done a really good job with that aspect of their job.
No.
That doesn't mean they can't, or won't in the future. And Via, I think, I don't know, I mean, I know her and I've talked to her quite a bit about it, and it's all about getting candidates really for the position, because you want a good pool to draw from. Here's what I won't do, is I won't necessarily call individuals to do that, because I think if I do that, then, if other people find out about that, it's like, well, you're
Yeah.
picking the next person for this job. And I won't do that.
But what about, I mean, do we even need to have so many people want to come to Montana, and if we post things on OPI, on SAM, on MTSBA, we're gonna get a lot of people. I don't know that we need to, because BIA is gonna cost us money.
She is.
I mean,
And I don't know the exact number to that. I want to say for MTSB, I'm not, don't quote me on this, it's around $5,000.
yeah, I mean, so I don't know if and what she would do is post the things we could post, and then she would go through the applications first.
She does.
But I mean, we're gonna want to go through all of it.
And I'd be more than happy to go through those two as a board member too, or however you want to do it.
Yeah.
You know
so-
what's gonna be the big problem. Housing.
Yeah, it will be to a degree. Yeah, and I think one of the things is when you look at it is you could try doing it locally first, but
No.
yeah,
Because all the local people are gonna be looking on those websites.
true.
You know what I mean? If you post it on SAM, OPI, MTSBA, the paper, our website,
I think one thing you have to do too, and we can do this, is figure out what do you want? What do you want in this candidate? What's the things that this person's gonna have to be able to come in doing, right off the get-go, and talking about the different programs that are out there, that we're working on, how familiar they are with those things. So the questions that are gonna be asked in an interview would have those things in them. You need to involve the union, in this too, and so have them be an active participant and the staff to a certain degree. How many places have done it, maybe we're jumping the gun a little bit here, is you have an interview with the board. The board has that interview, they go someplace else and they talk to parents, they go someplace else and talk to staff. So they meet in 3 different, different places. Not that the parents and the union people necessarily have a specific say, but they can give comment to it. They can say, this, that. Some places do it differently, and I know even I think it was Kalispell last time or the time before, they gave people cards and they could rate them on different things or comment on different things. And so I don't know how much weight would be put into that necessarily, because it's essentially going to come down to the board to choose, who that candidate is. So all those things can be worked on, and I can certainly help with that. So are you thinking you want to go with an MTSBA or a BF, do that, or you don't want to do that?
I don't know.
I don't think it's necessary. I think we're still gonna get those same applicants if they're interested. They're gonna see it.
Yeah. And we can put it on the
Including local
OPI.
folks as well, they're gonna see it.
Yeah, we can put it on the OPI website, so that people see that.
Yeah.
So,
I think if you're willing to take that on, what about the qualifications? Do we, or, you know, what we're looking for, do we want to specify that?
well, you have to have an we can go through that too. So administrative degree, you know,
Okay, so you're willing to do that and then, and post that for us? And I think that's.
and you have to have a timeline.
I was gonna say, do we want to have, what, 51 months?
Well, I think we're gonna open up the other jobs as soon as I get back from Nashville, which is, I'm going tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm coming back Saturday. So I think the next week we're gonna meet with the principals and go over what we need for staffing, you know, that kind of thing. We're gonna put it all together. And then that way, when you run the ad, run the different things, you can put that in place. Now, you might want to separate that. a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, so I think you don't keep it open for longer than a month.
No.
You know,
Right.
and that gives them plenty of time to get their stuff together.
And do we need to?
Yep, we'll have to have those sessions where we go through all the applications. It's a process, you guys.
No, that's before, what do we, no, we're talking kind of a particular timeline, because if we don't run, your school board will be totally different than, when does the superintendent actually get hired?
It'd be July 1.
As soon as, you know,
Well,
it
it's
could be
usually July
before.
1 that they-
Yeah.
But we could be before.
So we're talking, okay, so this.
I would probably, just from, I'm just telling you my personal, you guys can do whatever you want. But I would say that since you've been at least together for a while, it probably would be in the best interest to have people who have been on the board for a little. I know some of you are new, I mean, most of you are new actually, but at least you have some familiarity with it. And it might be better to do it before all the new board members are on, because that's a daunting task for all the new board members. And there may not be new board members. There might
Well,
be
and
the same,
technically,
so.
what is the law? You don't have, we've never done it, but we could do it, where the new people don't sit until
Yeah, you can
30
do that too.
days. Is it
You
30
can do
days?
up to 60. actually.
60 days. So they don't have to be sworn in at that May 4th meeting.
No.
We've never done that, but that's the law. Yeah. Like
I mean, it's
if
a
we
tidy up
were-
the business you've been working on.
You know what I mean? Because if the three of us are gone and there's three new people that have no clue what's going on and a new suit, I mean,
So the timeline would be conceivably, we post it March 1st, closes end of March. So we come on, so
well, we should be able to get that done in April.
Yeah, you should be done. You should probably be.
If we get enough applicants. The problem is if we don't get somebody that we want to hire,
Gotta start.
that
And
you
we
start
repost
over.
and- yep.
And then at that point, you might want to hire a headhunting service to actually go after and be more, you know what I
Which
mean?
I get every single day, stuff from.
Yeah.
Especially Oregon. You get stuff every day. But they cost you.
Yeah, it's not
They
cheap.
cost you more. That's
Yeah.
like, that's probably more like a 15,
I was gonna
20,000.
say, they're like 20, 25 grand for some of those.
And there's no guarantee they're gonna
No.
come up with something.
No, and they could get the same,
Well, I guess the starting point
Okay.
is we can, you know, put some things together, get them out to you guys, you know, and then get a timeline put together for that. So if we, you know, what, and if, you know, you get 10 applicants, that doesn't mean you have to interview all 10. You know, you can go through them, you know, choose the top 3 if you want.
Yep,
With a
right.
rubric of some kind or another, which we can get to.
And the interviews are essentially done in the public. forum.
yeah. Oh, yeah, we had, this interview was everybody was.
Yeah, when I came in, the library was here somewhere, it was out there, but Todd comes in and goes, I go, hey, what's going on in your library? He goes, that's for you. Oh, okay. There's about 40, 45 people in there. Great. So we had an interview.
But you did great.
Well, and this proposal gives us the opportunity to be picky too, right?
Yeah.
We don't have to settle.
Yeah.
Right.
We can take our time and make sure the right person and the right fit comes in and get feedback from staff, which is important, get feedback from parents that they are able to. I don't like the idea of a grading card that they can fill out, check mark. I would rather have them write down responses of pros and cons, things they like about people, and that means more.
It does. Okay, so
Okay, well,
I'll
we
start
have-
working on that.
Okay, well, we have a motion and a second. We haven't approved it yet. Any more discussion before we vote?
I just want to clarify, you'll be done July, right?
June 30th.
June 30th. But we're 15.
But I'll be available if you need.
That's when the new superintendent would take over.
New one would be a first place July 1. And then that's something for you guys to decide too. I mean, as far as, I know the pay scale's in place, so that's what it is. But you also have to decide on contractual days, you know.
Right.
And you know, mine right now is 235. But yeah, it's interesting because it's 235, but I also get all the same holidays as everybody else, you know, so I get the same as teachers. So it really can't ever add up to 235 days. It's virtually impossible. So just something for you to think
I should be
about.
counting.
You know, it's just, you can't do it. I mean, it's, you know,
Well, aren't most superintendent contracts?
260. They're 260. but
Is
you-
that the full time?
And by law, you get 15 days of
Yeah,
of
yeah.
vacation every year. But also, many superintendents, like I think, I'll use Micah for example, I think he gets 9 or 10 personal days a year too. He gets, you know, I mean, so you have to start thinking about that kind of stuff, you know, as far as what do you want for contract days? And when I first got her, it was 260.
Yeah, and then.
Yeah, then you some of the negotiation wasn't necessarily a pay increase, but it was getting the daily rate more comparable to the principals, because it was out of scale. So you just, you know, there's different things you have to think about.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'll help wherever you want me to and stay out wherever you want me to.
Any more discussion?
And let me I want to make this really clear. I don't want anything to do with the final say of who gets picked. Because I just don't, I mean, I'll give you input on, you know, whatever, but I'm not voting on it.
No. No. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Well, you have the teeth that if we don't say aye, you're just gonna just resign in November. So.
I know.
That's
No,
one way-
I
that's
wish
one
you-
way to look at it. Jeff.
Honestly, I wish you the very best. Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, you're gonna,
I'll put it-
you'll be all over it.
I'll work with Sam.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, and then our information items per usual. December cash reconciliation, December fund 115, fund 182, January activity account, and then our spring student count.
Yeah.
Look at that.
I don't have enough on this thing right now, but it's 779 is that what it was? Yeah.
Yes.
It's higher than that. Isn't it? Did you guys count them too? I counted, I had over 800 kids when I started counting.
813, I think.
Yeah, 813 is what I had.
Isn't that what it was in the fall?
No,
That was over 800.
we just counted again in February, so.
Oh, 765.
That's
So where are those? Some kids show up twice.
Well, it's only 2 days a year they count.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So,
Oh, gotcha.
so those kids, not
So
everybody
who was
might have
here
been
on that
Right.
day?
Yeah.
Yes,
that's why
and then
you
the
need to have
second
accurate-
one.
What's that?
I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's literally who's.
It's not
here
who's there on that day,
Right.
it's who's enrolled. It used to be like that. It's
Oh.
not that way. It's who's enrolled.
But they do the count on,
a certain day.
The counts now just due
Yes.
on a certain day. Doesn't mean, it just means who's enrolled, not, it used to be who's in the seats. It's who's enrolled on that date.
We just have a couple, 60 kids maybe, that have been gone for COVID and they were on vacation, so they didn't get to count because they were gone more than the 11 days. And we tried, we're like, nope, they've been gone more than
It's a
11
10-day
days.
drop.
Is that how that 10-day
Yeah.
rule?
It's a 10-day
So, I mean,
drop
that was
rule,
free,
which you
but-
can, you do not.
And they
So
just
it's like
count
an
once,
official count.
once a year.
twice.
Anytime during the year at a
October,
10-day, it's like no
Second.
contact, you can drop.
Tuesday.
But
And
they
second
would make
Tuesday
you
of the
do it
month.
I think
when it's on the count.
first.
The
We'll
first,
only count that
Yeah,
kid.
first.
that was like the 10th, though, was like around, I
Or
don't
if they
know.
miss 11 days and they're not enrolled.
Consecutive. It was 10
Yeah.
consecutive.
Yeah, and this family had had like some COVID and they had a vacation plan, and so they were gone like 19 days total or whatever it was, and so we found them as actually enrolled, even though
They
they would
are.
have been back, they could do that tomorrow for all I know.
Okay,
So we had.
all right, we need a motion to adjourn if there's nothing else.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Valentine's
Yeah,
Day. huh?
meetings are-
You got plenty of time, for sure to get home.
That's right.
Make your wife a nice meal.
Basketball game at
I
4:30.
was getting a new dishwasher installed when I left. I'm like, I'm out
Don't worry,
Hey.
about 5 o'clock again.
I forgot.
I can always pick it up.